Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, everyone.
Suzuka Circuit is an iconic racetrack located in the Mie prefecture of one of 47 prefectures in Japan. It has, of course, hosted some of the most incredible decisive moments in motorsport history, and the circuit itself has always been very well lent to those iterations. As Dennis Penders comes flying through Casio Corner, to make a point about Suzuka is that it is, of course, an layer figure of 8. What that means is, of course, is that it crosses over itself. And some people might think that was by design, but it was actually as a result of land constraints. Honda, who originally developed it as a test circuit before it became a racetrack, couldn't get extra planning permission to build further out. So they came up with an ingenious solution to make the circuit roll back on itself. And of course, over the years and subsequent decades, corners have been redesigned, changed, just as the 130R. But one element, of course, with Suzuka is that it has, incredibly, never actually been designed for spectators. That might sound bizarre. If you go to any motorsport event at Suzuka, you will look at it and think, it's a festival, there's so many activities going on, but it's never actually been designed to handle huge crowds. So when massive motorsport events such as Formula One or the World Endurance Championship or GT cars race around there, the locals have a sneaky way of getting out that the rest of the world doesn't yet know. Even if you decide to go there someday, I'll share that secret with you. But there will be no secrets to be held here for round 11 of the ACC Race Nation GT3 Challenge Series here at this brilliant Japanese track. We are following a number of cars out in practice at the moment as Howard Dunn finds himself out of the tarmac and into the gravel trap. Less than ideal for him. We've just got a few moments remaining, but this is it now. In terms of the Drivers' Championship, we are in the final 5 rounds of the season. No more slip-ups can be had, no more missed races, no more excuses. This is what it boils down to. 5 circuits starting from tonight for the next 5 weeks on Wednesday evening, all live, of course, on this channel here on Twitch, and of course uploaded to YouTube later on in the day or afternoon or evening, depending on the processing rate that Twitch and YouTube are having with one another at the minute. I'm Jack Millington, of course, your commentator as always for the GT3 series, and I'm really excited about tonight's race because, of course, it's absolutely chucking it down, which means the drivers are going to have to blend a level of skill with car ability. Of course, Suzuka, being the way that it is not a conventional circuit by any stretch of the imagination. Long flowing corners as we've got going through the S-curves following Hartle-Toby at the moment, and then up through the top out of Dunlop Curve. Dunlop Curve, of course, Casio is, well, actually a little bit further around the circuit. Casio Triangle is the chicane after 130R. Just to correct myself from earlier. But if you are watching, I hope you're doing well. Do make sure you put some comments in terms of what you're looking forward to tonight, any worries, any concerns, or just a general comment to see how you're all doing. That'd be fantastic to see. But we have started qualifying. We haven't got any flying laps just yet, of course. If you're new to watching the GT3 Challenge Series here with ACC Race Nation, let me just give you a quick update on how it works. So the drivers will have had an hour's worth of practice, a session that they can get into, and then following on from that they go into this 20-minute qualifying session where the fastest lap that they set will put their position on the grid, and then they go into a 1 hour race for the most part. because for rounds 11, 12, 13 and 14 they have a 1 hour race, which is what we'll have tonight, but for the season finale at the Nürburgring Nordschleife for 24 hours, that will be a 2 hour event that will finish this lengthy 15 round season off. So that's just so you're aware about the regulations for the format, and also to make you aware as well, there is of course a mandatory pit stop. So they will have to put fuel in the car, but tyres are completely optional if they want to change them or continue on with the risk. Now tonight, of course, drivers will be debating what the best strategy will be in terms of carrying on with the tyres that they've got, or going for a fresh set to try and get an extra benefit later on in the race. It's always difficult to judge, especially around Suzuka, but it is a high wearing tyre circuit. What I mean by that is that the drivers put a lot of load through this first sector. Hartle Toby getting a lot of exclusive access on the screen at the moment. There are other drivers, of course, circulating, but this first sector here that we're following the championship leader through, Stuart Packham, at the moment, this is where a lot of drivers will be using the front tyres to grip up as much as possible. It's not going to be a low tyre degradation circuit, so the drivers might have to think about a pit stop, especially in these weather conditions, as Mikey has a little slide going through turn 7. Gathers it all up though in the Hurricane. Mikey's campaign so far this season hasn't been too bad at all. But we're just circulating around at the minute. We've got a couple of new drivers in for this evening. We'll just have a explanation of who those drivers are. So starting us off with Zolt. There he is there, Zolt Barabas in the Nissan GTR. If the camera crew, there we go, managed to get hold of the Nissan GTR driver. There he is, the 447. The Hungarian making his debut this evening, and let's hope that he can carry on in the footsteps of some of the best Hungarian race drivers ever, such as Norbert Mikulis, the first ever Le Mans winner, of course, Francis, or even his namesake, Zolt Baumgartner, who drove for Minardi back in Formula 1. So he's got some esteemed company in Eastern Europe, and let's hope that Zolt can do his country proud. Also, as well, we've got Lois Mangle in the BMW. It's a very striking green, isn't it? He's the second of the BMWs in the field this evening, because we have the return of Will Fielding, Mr. Imperious, as he is otherwise known amongst some, not everybody, but some people do have a look at Will Fielding's performance this season and do worry about his speed. He's actually just gone back into the pits. But Stuart Packham has set the fastest opening time so far on a 2:07.9. Hartle Toby's there in second. Dennis Pender's in third position. Mikey with a solid lap, actually, in fourth place. I think he'd be relatively pleased with that. He's not too far away from the front of the field so far. We've got 19 drivers in tonight, and let's get out there and on board with one of them. Try and find somebody. Steve Hall in the perfect position to take us on a flying lap here of Suzuka. So the cars barrel down towards the first two corners, 1 and 2. Into this right-hander, it's all about bravery through here, and Steve drops the car down into fourth. Then slows it down a little bit more for this long right-hander, and runs a touch wide, but you can take a few lines through there. Then the start of the S-curves, it's all about consistency through the left, then through the right-hander, and through the left and right again. It's just about having a calm and stable line. If you overcorrect mid-corner, it will put you out of sequence for the rest, and Steve's done a solid job there. Into Dunlop curve, the last of these long winding corners, and that is nice and tidy from the Ferrari 296 GT3 driver. Through Dunlop and then into Degner curve. Complete commitment through here for the Ferrari driver. He has a little snap of oversteer on the first part. Into the second part, wasn't actually affected by that snap of oversteer in the end, but did look quite dramatic. Into effectively turn 10, but it's all about setting it up for the hairpin, the biggest stopping zone in the middle sector of the circuit. And Steve takes the middle line through there. There are 3 or 4 lines that you can take through turn 11, and Steve opted for the middle one. Turn 12 is not really a corner in GT3 cars if you get the line right, which Steve has, but Spoon is critical. Another long flowing corner of this circuit is the nature of it, of course. Into the second part of it, just touches the white line on the inside, drops down to second gear and then fires out straight up the road. So that's, of course, 14 corners of the race circuit done so far. He's then coming up to 130R, one of the most famous corners in the whole of Asia. It's all about commitment again with this circuit, and he runs a little bit wide, just braked a touch too late. He's now got to get the biggest stopping point on the circuit nailed, which is Casio Triangle, and again he runs a bit too deep, and that's going to spoil his lap time, I feel. Out of that final corner he comes. This looks like a relatively clean lap, despite the ending of it. Where will that put Steve Hall as he comes towards the start-finish line? The start-finish line for the timings is about there, and it's a 2-minute 9.885. More time to come from Steve. He will have lost a good second at least at the Casio Triangle at the chicane, so plenty of effort to come from him. Expect him to move higher up through the standings, but it's still Packham leading the way. Hartle-Toby, this is a circuit that will suit the Audi. This is something that will suit the R8 strengths, because when you look at Hartle-Toby, he is the only consistent R8 runner in the field. And what I mean by consistent is that he's actually competed in most of the races in the top 10. That's not being harsh to Jacob Byford-Rue, who isn't here this evening, or to John Wells for that matter. Those two have both been driving the R8, or are both classified as driving the R8 through this season. But Hartle is the only one so far who's been able to put that car, I think, in a position where it could fight for race victories. And whether Toby can do that tonight remains to be seen. But the German doing a solid job at the minute on the second row of the grid. We are 11 minutes remaining for the qualifying session. Penders is in third place. That's a good effort from Dennis. He always seems to do quite well in mixed conditions, does Dennis, in terms of his speed. But the 296 clearly going quite strongly here. Danny Zoutenbayer, former champion of season 10, of course, in the Dayglow Yellow Ferrari. He is in fourth place. Nice effort from Zolt Barabas. Nice to as well see another Nissan in the field. We don't have Davy Zoutenbayer with us this evening, unfortunately, to have a back-to-back comparison. But I think the Nissan crew will be relatively pleased to see one of their machines in the top 6, as Will Fielding puts himself into second place. Now, it has been a while since Will Fielding raced with us. I think we have to go right the way back to Zandvoort, where he finished in third place. Ooh, I think that was Matt Phillips spinning off in the background there. I believe it was. But the last time Will Fielding raced with us was back at round 7, and he finished third that day. Now, one of the quirks of the championship is that the drivers have to carry ballast if they finished in the top 3, and of course Will finished in third place that day, so he's going to be carrying 10 kilos of ballast in the M4, but it's certainly not slowing him down too much at the minute as he drifts the car through the first part of Degner 1. Jeffrey Van Buren is 7th, with Howard Dunn in the Aston Martin in 8th. It's the Mustang of Dan Hatton, one of the revelations this season in the championship. He's 1 point off the championship leaders, Dan Hatton. We'll talk more about that shortly. Steve Hall, who we followed earlier, he's in 10th place. Danny Felix is 11th. Mikey Keating in 12th. Matt Phillips in 13th. Liam Watkins in 14th. Joe Warner, the last of the drivers to have set a valid lap time thus far. I think Joe is doing a solid job this season. I think it's kind of gone overlooked because he's had so many struggles with the Big Merc. But he hasn't quit. He hasn't stopped driving that car. He's just continued on. And I know he's found it to be quite a challenge, but he is still sticking at it. And I think that's credit to him for continuing to do that. So Joe, keep it up. Really nice to see his development as the season goes on. I imagine he'll probably look to switch teams in season 13, but right now he's committed to that Mercedes. Mark Chapman, whilst we were talking, he's just gone up to third place in the AMR V8. We're yet to see a lap from Lois Mangle, Jamie Lee or Ross Harris. Those are the only 3 drivers yet to set a lap time as of this moment. But I am curious to know how the drivers will navigate it today. It isn't a race circuit for the faint-hearted. As you can see, Jeffrey Van Buren has gone off at Degner too. We are seeing cars spinning off the race circuit, and it is an old school circuit in that sense. It is quite traditional, even though the layout has changed 7 or 8 times in the last 70 years. The characteristics of the circuit have never really changed, so it is a true challenge, and difficult conditions combined together do absolutely cause the drivers to be on the limits here tonight. And I'm expecting the race to have a few moments in there that will cause some consternation for sure. But that's the beauty of racing. We can't predict who's going to win. We can't predict just yet with any absolute certainty who's got pole position. But right now, you'd argue that Stuart Peckham is the one to beat on provisional pole. Less than, well, effectively, as Dennis Penders runs very deep there at the Casio chicane. But less than 7 minutes to go in qualifying. That's all about getting those valid lap times in. A lot of drivers in the pits at the moment. Maybe just looking to do some last minute setup tweaks. Howard Dunn slides over the curb there, going through the right-hander before Spoon Curve. That's a good lap from Howard, actually, to be in 6th position. He wasn't there earlier, so he's got himself under a second. But having said that, the benchmark has just been pushed forward. Stuart Peckham, championship leader, adds an extra 10th to everybody's delta to try and find. So the Lamborghini Huracan clearly working in these conditions. I would say that this is a circuit that would definitely suit the Lamborghinis. It is just it's a midship rocket car, so of course the flow of the first and second sector just link really nicely for the car's characteristics. And the other element for Stuart as well, which he'll be rubbing his hands with glee at, is that he is carrying no ballast today. He finished 4th 2 weeks ago when we last raced at Silverstone in the 2-hour event. So he doesn't have to worry about that, and it's probably a good track to not carry ballast around. The drivers, just to give you a bit of extra information, the drivers who are carrying ballast at the moment, we have Dan Hatton, who's carrying the maximum amount of ballast in that Mustang. He's got the full 30 kilos, and he's down in 10th place. Oh, that's a big snap of oversteer. That's a big save from Hatton through 130R. Did you see how sideways he was through the corner? Great car control, but the Mustang certainly won't be enjoying this track. I don't think it's suited, especially with the ballast on top here for this circuit. So Dan's going to have to just damage limitation, I think, maybe tonight, and just take advantage of issues going on around him. But he's carrying the 30 kilos of ballast. The other driver carrying ballast is just in front of him, actually. Jeffrey Van Buren, he finished 2nd 2 weeks ago. He'll be carrying the 20 kilos of ballast. And Mark Chapman will also be carrying the last part of ballast there for finishing in 3rd place 2 weeks ago. And of course the ballast that he will be carrying is 15 kilograms, so it's going to affect the drivers a little bit. But Chapman doing quite well. The AMR looking quite strong, 2 of them in the top 6. They are the only 2 we can reference, but nevertheless it's encouraging for Howard Dunn to be as close as he is to Mark Chapman. He'll take some confidence from that. And I think the other driver who's going to take some confidence is Mikey Keating. You know, we haven't seen him at the front of this pack that we've talked about before. If you only just joined us, we talk about the quartet at the back of the field. And that's typically Mikey, Matt Phillips, Liam Watkinson and Joe Warner. But it's been a while since we've seen him at the front of that group, and he's comfortably in front. So Mikey will feel a bit buoyed by that, and hopefully he can translate that into some race performance and consistency, because that's the big question mark for these drivers tonight, is how can they keep up good speed whilst pushing for a good race result. There we go. That does happen sometimes. But Lois Bangle had yet to set a lap time, so don't know if Lois is just deciding this is the moment for him, he's just going to stay in the pits, or if there's been some other communications. Joe Warner's not too pleased. About the weather conditions at the moment, but this is of course based off real-time life, so it is raining in the Mie prefecture at the moment. That's what the drivers... Oh, as Chapman gets that all wrong. I think he was caught out a little bit there by Ross Harris braking a touch earlier. Nothing that Ross Harris did wrong, he was braking for the corner, so he was comfortable. But Chapman just approached him at a greater speed, and that was that really. Saw him flying off into the gravel at Degner 1. No big issues though. He's managed to get back on circuit. Let's just have a look now. Let's go back to the garage. We are less than 2 minutes and 15 seconds remaining in qualifying. We want to try and find out how the drivers are doing in real time. So Zsolt Barabas comes across the line. No improvement from him. What about Will Fielding? He looked quick in practice. Nothing there. Danny Zoutenbayer comes across the line to start another lap. We move to Danny Felix. Mikey's gone back into the pits. So something's happened to Mikey. He had left the pits and has now returned, unfortunately. But Felix, he's going to come towards the start-finish line in the McLaren. He's the highest McLaren as well, actually, in front of Matt Phillips, Jamie Lee and Ross Harris. So we don't really have any drivers who have consistently been in the championship this season driving a McLaren. I think the only one that we have had is Simon Whiting, but he's only done half of the events, and he finished second back at round 2. So it's been some time since we saw a McLaren fighting for a top 5 spot, but Danny will be pleased with that performance so far. He's still got another lap as he has a little slide out of Dunlop corner. It's not the type of line you want to be having at this point. Steve Hull goes a little bit quicker, and Danny Felix goes a little bit quicker off into the gravel trap, so that'll be a return to the pits, and that's qualifying over for him, sadly. Liam Watkinson now will come towards the start-finish line. No improvement as of yet. Dan Hatton has got himself up to 5th position, so that's a good lap, and that's an even better one onto the second row of the grid. That is a strong lap from Dan. Lois Mangle has just come out, actually, of the pit, so I don't know if Lois was just working on some setups, but we'll see how the lime green BMW gets on through the event. Where is Ross Harris? He's just coming through the hairpin, so is this going to be his one and only lap? Because if it is, he's left it very late, because we've got 10 seconds remaining in qualifying, so I think this is going to be the last lap for Zsolt Barabas. It's going to be close as he comes towards the line. He might just squeeze in. He does, and what an effort that is to go to second place. Will Fielding can't respond to that. Danny Zoutenbayer ends up in 8th place. What a lap time from Zsolt Barabas in the end. He actually, Will Fielding, credit to him, actually it spun round in the end. He did respond to that time to go second, but Zsolt Barabas, very, very strong effort from him. Mark Chapman's just spun out a spoon curve, so he's not going to improve any further on that lap. But the Hungarian sits in 3rd position for the time being. And can anybody get onto the second row or even the front row of the grid? We've got Hall and Van Buren going through 130R. Ross Harris has abandoned his lap. Oh, that's very wide from Van Buren. And that's wide again from Steve Hall. He's really struggling with that chicane. And as has Van Buren for that matter, he's got that line all wrong. But can Hall literally haul himself into the top 10? He needs to find 5 thousandths over Van Buren. And he can't find it. And that's where he remains in 11th place. Hatton then, one of the championship protagonists. He's been shuffled down to 5th place. He goes into the pit lane. So that's that done for the Mustang driver. And Lois Mangle also having a little struggle with that chicane as well, but he skips across it. It's effectively AstroTurf at that point, so he doesn't have to worry. But Stuart Packham takes pole position here at Suzuka, and Mark Laszlo has just squeezed in at the last minute, ladies and gentlemen. So Mark Laszlo makes it 20 cars on the grid for tonight. So see how he gets on with no practice. But as I was saying, it is pole position for Stuart Packham. He'll be delighted with that. He's got Will Fielding alongside him on row 2 with Zolt Barabas and Mark Chapman on row 2. Great effort from Zolt to go to third place. Dan Hatton, Hartle Toby are on row 3 with Dennis Penders and Danny Zoutenbayer on row 4. Howard Dunn and Jeffrey Van Buren round out the top 10. Howard Dunn being the last of the drivers within a second of pole position. Then it's Steve Hall and Danny Felix in 11th and 12th places. Mikey Keating leading the quartet of Matt Phillips, Liam Watkinson and Joe Warner. No lap times in the end from Mark Laszlo, who squeezed in right at the end. Lois Mangle, who went out for a consolidatory lap. Jamie Lee or Ross Harris. None of those four setting a time in the end. I'm going to give myself just a breather, get myself ready to go. Hello to Danny in the chat. Hope you're doing well. Give me your thoughts about tonight, Danny, just whilst I have a breather, and we'll come back to that when I return. Let me know what you're thinking, what your hopes are for tonight. So, less than a minute to go until the race gets underway here at Suzuka. Just looking at a couple of the comments. 30 seconds. Danny Felix saying he's dreading it. Yeah, I can imagine it's going to be a real challenge tonight, Danny. But he's aiming potentially for a top 10. That's a good result for him. I would agree with that. Especially in these conditions, it's all about a lottery and keeping it on the road. You never know who might come into some strife during the event. I think we've just lost Mark Laszlo, unfortunately. He was there, but now he's disappeared. So we are down to 19 drivers in the end. I thought that was a bit strange to see the number 8 car. And we've got Matt Phillips and Lois Mangle back in the pit. So those two will be having a pit lane start, as Stuart Packham leads us from the grid on provisional, well, it's no longer provisional pole, it is confirmed pole position. But looking at the driver's standings, just as Stuart takes us around this beautiful racetrack here in Japan, of course. It is a massive circuit, by the way. I don't just mean in terms of size. It is about I think it's 3.6 miles in length, but it can host up to 155,000 people. And considering that the circuit, as I said before, isn't built for mass track exoduses, they've done very strongly with being able to keep everybody safe whilst they are watching from the grandstands. But at the minute, the driver standings are as follows. Stuart Packham leads, not just on pole, but also the driver standings. He sits on 228 points. Dan Hatton is second on 227 points, 1 point behind after his race win back at Silverstone. Mark Chapman is third, the reigning champion, of course, from season 11 on 203 points. He's 25 points back. That's a gap that can certainly be closed down. Fourth is Jordan Harding, still on 202 points, but Jordan sadly will not be competing in the rest of the season, so expect him to slide down the leaderboard. In fifth place, you've got Dennis Penders on 186 points, with Will Fielding in sixth on 180. Jeffrey Van Buren is seventh on 173, with Davy Zoutenbayer on 168 points in eighth place. Bence Biro, who isn't here tonight, nor is Davy for that matter, is ninth on 162, and Hartle Toby rounds out the top 10 on 149 points. And Hartle has a point to prove tonight, I believe. I think starting in sixth place on the third row of the grid. He'll be aiming to try and get up there as soon as he possibly can. Do expect some lively movements from that R8. I think he's realistically the only driver in the field who can get that car dancing in the way that he does, but it can cause problems. He's led races earlier on in the championship and then thrown it all the way with a mistake. We saw that at Monza. We've seen it at other rounds as well. And I talk about Hartle Toby quite a lot because I want him to succeed. I think he's really challenging the more modern GT3 cars, such as the Huracan, the M4, the AMR V8. You know, the Audi is not long in the tooth. It's not the right word to use, but it is a car that's got a solid platform and hasn't been developed in the same way as these more recent machinery have been developed. So I think to see an R8 as high as it is a really, really sterling effort from the German driver. But he won't be thinking about P1 just yet. He'll be thinking about getting his start lined up correctly, and Packham will be thinking about that too. He's got Will Fielding going alongside him. And the last time we saw Will Fielding, he scored a podium position. He's won 3 races, of course, of the 6 he's participated in, which is a brilliant statistic when you think about it. 50% of the races he's entered, he's won. So can he add to that figure? We go through the final chicane and then the final corner at Suzuka. 18 corners to try and navigate around this 3.6 mile race circuit, and they line up 2 by 2. If you are watching, do comment what your thoughts are. Nice to see you, John, in the comments. You're echoing basically what I've said about Audi's works team no longer exist within the GT3s. It's all down to privateers running it. But who will make the best start here at Suzuka? And the race is live here in Japan. It looks like a solid start from Stuart Packham, and I think he's going to lead into turn 1 as the race director zooms out. But Fielding's going to try and go around the outside, but he goes on the curb, and that's going to suck all of the momentum that he had going into turn 2. He's not going to be able to stick that out around the outside. They'll have to filter through one by one at this next corner, but Packham has done what he needed to do to maintain the lead of the race. But Fielding looking very feisty already in these opening exchanges. We get back to the garage, we'll just have a little flick through. So Zolt Barabas is right there, Hatton is there, Hartle Toby, then it's Penders. So Hartle Toby's got in front of Dan Hatton at the start, and tell you what, Hartle Toby looking at the back of Mark Chapman, who was a bit wide at Dunlop Curve. But so far, oh, I think Toby hit the back of Chapman. He just about gathered it all together, thankfully. And that's Barabas going off the circuit, and he's going to get bumped off the road by the gravel as the timing tower tries to update. But Mark Chapman moves into third position. It's a little bit wide from the AMR, and Toby trying to take advantage of this already at the start of the race. Packham leads, Will Fielding second. We can't see it because this is the camera we've got to work with. But look at this. Is that Will Fielding? Oh, there's contact between Fielding, and off the road goes Stuart Packham. Going into the right-hander at turn 12. I feel that that's Chapman going off the road. There's drama already. And Toby is trying to make an attack for this. And we'll have to have a replay of that back, whether the two came together or whether it was one was the aggressor and one was the receptor. But Hartle Toby on the inside of Mark Chapman towards 130R. Took a very tight line, actually. Did Toby bounces over the curb? There's contact, and they're both round. Into the wall goes Hartle-Toby. Into the wall, not for Chapman. And Dan Hatton moves up to second. What a dramatic start we've had on the opening lap here in Suzuka. Absolutely shocking scenes, but it's Will Fielding who leads the way. It's not Hartle-Toby, it's actually Dan Hatton who's in second place. You can't believe his luck. Surely, from starting down in 6th place, he dropped back. Chapman's going to go back through, I think, on the inside at turn 1. He does indeed. And the AMR V8 moves into position. So that's going to put Dan Hatton down to 3rd. Dennis Penders up to 4th. Danny Zoutenbayer up to 5th. Danny Felix and Mikey Keaton, take a picture. These two are 6th and 7th. What a start. They've avoided. There's been so much drama on the opening lap. We've only seen the top 10. But I did check out earlier. In the first sector, there's been all sorts of dramas for loads of cars. Steve Hall's in 8th place. Toby's got damage. I'm not sure how he's carrying on with that. That was a big impact with the wall on the exit of 130R. Howard Dunn is 10th. Joe Warner's in 11th place. Jamie Lee's 12th. And that's Zolt Barabas in the pits. Lois Mangle is in 14th place. I don't know if Lois Mangle... These camera angles are absolutely dreadful from the race director. We're going to have to try and sort those out. I don't actually think we can. These are the only external cameras we've got. But Lois Mangle's still circulating. Matt Phillips still circulating. Packham in the pits. Van Buren in the pits. Liam Watkinson in the pits. And Ross Harris in the pits. So there's been clear drama through the field. But we're going to have to go and have a look at a replay because our race leader is 3.6 seconds to the good. And there's stop and go penalties. Nightmare for Jeffrey Van Buren and Zolt Barabas to add insult to injury. What a frenetic start we've had here in Japan. So Chapman is second. Hatton has been dropped already by Chappers, who was looking quite quick in practice. Then it's Dennis Penders in 4th. He's a good few seconds clear of Danny Zoutenbayer. And that's Steve Hall now moving up to 6th place. So Steve, he's had a bit of damage at the back of the car. But he won't care too much about that because he's in a good position after qualifying in 11th. Danny Felix, then Mikey Keaton in 7th and 8th place respectively. Hartle-Toby, I'm surprised at him staying out. I really did expect his car to be coming into the pits, but he looks like he's got some speed. And is that Dan Hatton going in? Oh, and Danny Zoutenbayer is spun in the pits. Goodness me, we've never had a start in ACC Race Nation like this. Absolutely ever. This has never happened before. Hartle-Toby's going up the inside. And I cannot believe what I'm about to say, but Danny Felix, Mikey Keaton and Hartle-Toby are fighting for 5th place. And I wonder if anybody has decided that they've gone for the dry tyre. I wonder if that's what's happening at this point. Or if they've gone for the wet tyres. That's the only reason why I would have assumed that Dan Hatton and Danny Zoutenbayer would have gone in. I know Danny definitely didn't have any damage. I don't think he did, unless he clouted the wall when he spun in the pit lane. And Dan, I don't think he had any issues either, but he gets out and underway. He's going to get out comfortably in front of... I'm just looking a little bit further down the road. He's going to get out comfortably in front of Liam Watkinson and Stuart Packham, who's just put a move on Liam Watkinson, who's gone down the escape road. So I'm just wondering whether there are some tyre changes being made. Because Zoutenbayer's going to come out in front of Packham. Oh, and Zoutenbayer's got a stop and go penalty as well. We're not even 6 minutes into the race, ladies and gentlemen, and we've had more action than you've seen in Formula 1 this season. That's what we've had so far. Will Fielding is, by the way, on lap number 3, just to give you a moment to settle down and take stock of where we are. Let's do that. So Will Fielding, race leader at the moment. We haven't seen what happened with him and Stuart Packham on lap 1. We're going to get a chance to go through the replay in a moment. Chapman is second. Dennis Penders is 9 seconds behind in 3rd position. Then we've got Steve Hall in 4th. Hartle-Toby is now in 5th place. And Mikey Keaton's up to 6th. And I am having to have a breather there when I say that, because Mikey and Danny are having a glorious fight, and it's very respectable. These two both used to race for Next Gen back in the day. They've both raced in the same championships previously. They respect one another. And Danny Felix goes into the pits. So there's got to be some tyre changes going on. That's what I'm putting it down to. So into the pits goes Felix. Howard Dunn now is up to 7th place, and he's absolutely rapidly catching the Lamborghini in front of him. So Felix is making a tyre change. This is absolutely wild to try and keep up on top of. We don't have any other information, ladies and gentlemen, other than what is on the screen. I'm operating from the same info that you have in front of you. We have lost one driver. I think we've lost Zolt by the seams of it in these early stages, which is a great shame for Barabas. He's out of the race. And Steve Hull's right up to the bat, and Steve Hull's going to go through. So I'm looking at the weather conditions. Steve, look at that, just took the outside line. That was like the go-kart line, he just drove around the outside. I'm going to go and cut over to Hartle-Toby. This is who I want to follow on board with, if we can get to the car. On board with the R8, I don't think that rain at the minute is heavy enough for wet tyres. And I think that's what's promoting some drivers here who've braved it out and gone with dry, slick weather compound tyres. I think this is what's causing the difference, because look at this. Closing up towards 130R, decides better of it. Into the left-hander we go. And can he make a late lunge down into the Casio chicane? He's there, he's there, he's still there. Penders just runs deep, he's got no grip, and Toby goes through. So Hartle-Toby back up to 4th. Despite planting the barrier, he's up into 4th place. I mean, this is absolutely brilliant. Danny Felix, who'd just gone into pit, saying tyres were almost 40. Less than ideal in terms of pressures. Stuart Packham, after his incident at the start, is down in 12th place. We'll try and give you an update. So the top 10 have not pitted. They have stayed out there. Lewis Mangle is in 12th at the moment, circulating. So Dan Hatton is the first of the cars who have pitted and has actually now put himself into the top 10. So where's Joe Warner? He's had a problem somewhere in this lap. He's in fact, he's nosed the barrier on this lap. So unfortunately for Joe, it's not really quite... Oh, there's a contact between Lewis Mangle and Stuart Packham, and I think that's going to be one in the barrier. Yeah, I thought it was. It was an awkward place for two cars to go, and the championship leader has gone to the pits. And the car we cut to is Dan Hatton. You couldn't have timed it more appropriately. Right now, you are looking at the new championship leader because Stuart Packham is in the pits, thanks to contact with Lewis Mangle. I'm trying to look to see where Packham is out there. It's reset everything because of the way that the game works. So I'll have to just have a little look. So Will Fielding and Mark Chapman are in a league of their own. 5 seconds separate the two of them, but then they are 15 seconds clear of Steve Hall, Hartle-Toby and Dennis Penders, who is dropping away like a stone from these two. There's a huge gap in terms of speed between the drivers. Penders is there. Then it's Howard Dunn, who's in 6th place. Mikey Keaton's still in the top 10 after 10 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, I know I'm focusing a little bit too much on Mikey, but this is already the best drive of his season. Doesn't matter what happens after this. He's doing an outstanding job. He's 7 seconds clear of Jamie Lee in 8th position, although I don't think that's 7 seconds. Mikey's just gone through 130R, and I think that gap's come down by about a second. Dan Hatton is now in 9th place. Joe Warner's in 10th. Liam Watkinson's 11th. Danny Felix is 12th after pitting. Ross Harris is 13th. Matt Phillips has just come out of the pits for a new set of tyres. Danny Zoutenbayer is in 15th place. Jeffrey Van Buren is 16th. Lewis Mangle's in the pits. Zolt Barabas is now back in the game. And we have actually lost now Stuart Packham. So the championship leader is out of the race. And what that means is that Stuart Packham's dropped score will now be a did not start at Red Bull Ring and a DNF here. So that actually might completely change the complexion of the championship. We'll have to find that out in a little bit. We'll get our correspondents working on it. But Let's go and have just a little look at the replay in a moment, because Jamie Lee is catching Mikey now, and that's... I did say that that gap was not 7 seconds, it's now 2.7 as he goes through the first sector. Oh no! Jamie Lee's hit the wall! And what was I saying earlier? It's all about keeping the car on the race circuit. Doesn't matter how fast you are. Jamie Lee was 2.7 off the back of Mikey. It's now 5.3, and he'll have damage to contend with as well. Hartle-Toby is keeping pace with Steve in third position. But we're going to go to the replay. We need to have a look at what happened. We need to break down what went on, because that was absolutely carnage. We'll go on board with Will Fielding because he was the best placed driver for the first incident. I'll try and get this to speed up. If it wants to. Times 8. That's as fast as it will go. Okay, let's do it like this. So we come through on the formation lap, going through the next couple of corners. And this isn't even looking at all the action that unfolded further back. So let's... I've just done that, haven't I? Yeah. Okay, let's go back this way. Apologies, I've just done all that. So, Stuart Packham was... Ooh. Now that looked a little bit awkward. We might need to just have a look here at the internal camera. That might be the best one we can use for now. Looks to the outside line, and ooh, that's a little, and it's a little nudge, and that's it. That's all it was. One for the stewards, I think. I don't think that's going to be one that I can judge, but that looked a little bit potentially avoidable, is what I'm going to say for that. But I don't know on whose side that would have been. Now, further back, we had drama. So we had those cars coming out of the pits. Then we had Ross Harris, who was a little bit further back. Now, we might be able to see the melee that happens. So Steve Hall gets turned around by Howard Dunn. And Steve Hall hits the wall backwards. So that moves everybody up a couple of spaces. And then as we go around the field, we're following Ross Harris, but he's a little bit further back. So I'm just going to move up to Liam Watkinson and Mikey. So Mikey was kind of the best placed driver for this, as he watched all of the chaos and carnage unfold in front of him. So all's well through there. You saw Zolt Barabas just going off the road, and he struggles to come back on further up as we go towards the hairpin. Everyone fighting over the same piece of tarmac. And that's Stuart Packham rejoining. So Stuart Packham comes out behind Mikey. That's how much time the championship leader lost. And then we will get to see Hartle-Toby. Yeah, there you go. Hartle-Toby facing the wrong way. So let's have a look at that one. Because that all seems to go a little bit wrong. And I did say he took a very tight line going into this corner. Bounces over the curbs. And he's done quite well actually to turn the car around. But I do feel like it's a bit like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other really with that. So that was that incident. And we'll get to see Danny Zoutenbayer spin on the next lap as well. So let's just do that. So if we just go back a little bit, because Danny Zoutenbayer was doing a perfectly good job, and the next thing you know, he's absolutely sideways going into the pit lane. So this is what we saw earlier. Loses the back end, goes on the grass, manages it, and then bounces off the wall and then gets turned around. And somehow does a full 180 without hitting anything else. So that was impressive. And then what we have to do now is go and have a look back at what happened to Packham, because he was flying through the field. No struggles whatsoever. and then he had contact that has ruled him out of the race. So he's got Joe Warner in front of him just there. And we can see the lime green BMW coming up towards us, who's just circulating at his own pit speed. Stewart gets a good run off of Spoon Curve. And then here we go towards 130R. So the BMW to the left-hand side. Oh, and Stewart just misjudged it. And that was it. Into the wall, and that was... So it was... Stewart just misjudged the closing speed at 130R. He's going to be... He won't be too pleased about that. Right, that gives us an update on where everybody is at the moment, or where everybody was. So Will Fielding leading the way still. Mark Chapman still in second. Steve Hall's third. Hartoby's in fourth. Dennis Penders is in fifth place. You've got Howard Dunn going very slowly, and has been overtaken by Dan Hatton, who is now steaming back through the field. Jamie Lee is in eighth place. Danny Felix is ninth, and sadly, Mikey has dropped all the way down to 14th. Now, I don't know if that's because he's made a pit stop and he lost a lot of time, or he's been in the wall. That car looks relatively fresh and clean, so I'm going to give Mikey the benefit of the doubt. But that has... We've still got a lot of cars on different strategies here. And I feel that this can go a lot of different ways. I feel that whilst we've had a lot of excitement at the start, this is far, far from over. In fact, let's have a little look. We are currently on the 8th lap of the race, would you believe? Mikey looks like he's got some form of problem, actually. He went off the road, he just moved out of the way. I'm fearful that Mikey has got a problem, which... No, he's back up to speed now, so I'm going to have a look at that. Because there are some movers and shakers going on at the moment within this race. We look for the 113. And that's Liam Watkinson having a spin. Oh, and that was Joe Warner having a spin as well. Oh, that was another incident on lap 6 that we didn't see. Wow. As the game decides where it wants to put people. And the game now doesn't know what to do with the replay. Oh, that's a shame. Okay, we won't be able to see what happened there. But, as we come back to the pits, that gap is relatively stable between Chappers and Fielding. I do feel that Fielding has got the edge slightly at the minute. But Dan Hatton has the fastest lap of the race, and I wonder if he's changed tyres deliberately to try and pull this gap down. If we look at his fastest lap, he has done a 2-minute 4.1. That is his best lap so far. He's in the 2-minute 4s quite comfortably. And Will Fielding, he's also in the 2-minute 4s. So I wonder if these guys at the front started on the right set of tyres, and everyone else has had to bail into the pits. I say that they started on the right tyres. They might have started on the right tyres, but the race could go anyway. It looks like the rain's getting just a touch heavier now. Will Fielding's got his windscreen wiper on, and Jamie Lee now has come into the pit. So it is all to play for. And the crazy thing here is that we are 20 minutes into the race, and everybody up to Howard Dunn is a lap down. I mean, that is so early in the race is absolutely incredible. Danny Felix moves out of the way. Chapman, Hall, Toby, who I'm incredibly impressed by, actually, continuing on with that damage. I'm staggered that it's not as bad as what I thought it was going to be. Dennis Penders is at the other side of the circuit, so he's at Spoon Curve and he's in 5th place. We'll just wait for him to come across the split sector time, just to give you an idea of how far back he is at the minute. It's just going to come across that now. He's not 1 lap down. This is another thing with the Assetto Corsa Competizione timings. But he is quite some distance behind. Dan Hatton is... Well, he's just pulled, I think, 6 seconds out of Dennis Penders on that sector, which I think sums up how quickly he is going right now, the championship contender, he might not be leading the race, but at the minute, he doesn't need to have to worry about that because his main championship rival is out of the race. Stuart Packerby retired. He's not particularly pleased with what's happened. He said he's never expected anybody to break so early for the 130R, and sometimes in racing you do have to expect the unexpected, unfortunately, and I do feel for anybody who goes out from a retirement. But Stuart is currently our only retirement from the session, as Dan Hatton has a little bit of a wobble coming out of Dunlop Curve. Howard Dunn 27 seconds behind. He's not pitted. Danny Felix has. He's running in 8th place. And if Howard Dunn is only there on the racetrack, I'd expect Danny Felix actually to have a net 7th at the minute. Dan Hatton now Leicester. Look at that. Look how much time he's pulled on the Ferrari. The Belgian. Dennis Penders hasn't been driving badly, by the way. He's been doing a solid job, but he's clearly not on the right tyre or setup. It's just not working for him. I fear that Penders might slide down the order a bit here because he's just struggling for grip. Look at that. He's scrambling all over the road. And Hatton just gets on the power comfortably. No problem. Bit of slipstream to the left-hand side. He'll probably get there before 130R, I think. They're side by side together. And yeah, there he goes. Straight through. No messing about. And into 130R. And he doesn't have to look. And the worst thing is for him is, for Penders that is that he can't even try and look to attempt to make a move because he's on the wrong compound. And that is causing all sorts of drama. Really, really unfortunate for Penders. He's lost 2 seconds to Hatton, and surely that's got to be ringing some alarm bells for the Belgian to think, I know I'm not this slow. Yeah, 2:14 on that last lap for Penders. Unless he is on the right tyre and his tyre pressures are all over the place, which is a problem for some drivers to have to try and contend with. Some people do struggle with that. We have lost another driver from this race. Just trying to calculate who it is that's retired. I think it's... Just looking to see. I don't think... Oh, Jamie Lee very wide there. Yeah, just looking, I can't quite figure out who it is who has joined Stuart Packham in the retirement lodge. But we have lost 2 cars from the session, sadly. So that's 2 gone. As we're not even at the halfway distance yet, realistically. Hartoby has clawed back a little bit of that deficit to the Ferrari in front. But I just feel for Hartle, he'd probably benefit from making a pit stop and getting that damage fixed. Because I feel that even with... Oh, Steve has a huge slide out of turn 2. The aqua blue Ferrari nearly became aqua brown through that corner. That was a worrying moment. He's already been in the wall once. He doesn't want to make it a second time round. Steve is, despite being punted into the wall on the opening lap, he's actually recovered really strongly. So for Steve to be in this position is something I think he'd be quite pleased about. Mikey Keaton looking at the back of Matt Phillips. I think Mikey's knows the wall somewhere. That looks like quite a big impact for Mike. He's circulating down in 15th, but as I said before, best race of the season so far. Ross Harris, stop and go penalty. We've seen 5 drivers now get one of these. This is a unparalleled number. Danny Zoutenbayer was another one of those drivers. He's back in the top 10. Hartley now gets that gap down to 1.6 as he goes over the curb at Spoon Curve. So Mikey's just falling away. Well, he's actually keeping up with Matt Phillips, to be fair. So Mikey looking to try and make an overtake on the Canadian. He has a big bounce over the curbs, though. That's not going to help him. John's... I don't think you can be blamed for it, John, realistically. I think that comes down to the weather. And there goes Matt Phillips. The pressure from Mikey tells in the end. And the Canadian slides into the walls. Oh, Barris Bass has got back into the session. That was the driver who we'd lost momentarily. He's got back into the session. Mikey having a big slide out of the corner. And trying to see how far behind Dan Hatton is. But we can't get a realistic representation until he comes across the start-finish line. But it'll be curious to see what his pace is like sector by sector. He's just going through 130R now. But this is the closest fight on circuit at the moment. We have had a wild opening 10 minutes to this race. I don't feel it's settled down in the traditional sense of the word. I feel it's calmer than earlier, but that doesn't make it any less exciting. Oh, Steve Hall coming up behind the back marker of Mangel. You get out of the way actually in the end, but just caught him at the bad time. That's going to bring Toby a little bit closer. And Danny Felix is also closing the gap up to Howard. In fact, he's not closed the gap, he's overtaken him. So those people who are still braving it out there, and Dennis Penders gives up, that's it. Time for him to get a new set of tyres on and hopefully sort out the pressures. That's Toby. We still haven't got a time from Hatton to Toby. This is what I'm trying to work out and calculate as we go along. Just trying to fathom how quickly that Mustang is circulating. He's 42.7 seconds behind with 30 minutes to go. Now I know that saying if he catches Hartle by a second and a half a lap, that seems like quite a stretch, but in this race anything kind of goes at the minute. And look at Toby now, he's trying to put the pressure on. Will Fielding into the pits. Race leader has decided it's time for a new set of boots on the car. Steve Hall carries on by the looks of it. I thought he was making a beeline for the pit lane. Penders and Dunn have also pitted at the halfway mark. But that gap is not at all very much, is it, ladies and gentlemen? Problem is we've got so many cars between Dan Hatton and Hartle Toby. We can't actually work it out on circuit. We can't use the updated live timings to find out. Will Fielding there in fourth, a long-time race leader. So Chappers carries on, and Matt Phillips has managed to get back onto Mikey. So that's not over, that fight just yet. Oh, and that is Will Fielding. Will Fielding now becomes the sixth driver to get a stop-and-go penalty. And that, he's going to absolutely have to put his foot down now if he wants to try and get a podium from this race. That is shocking. Absolutely incredible. Oh, and Steve Hall's gone off the road. So Hartle Toby moves into second. This race, everywhere you look, every moment you look at something, it changes. Mark Chapman leads. Hartle Toby's in second. Steve Hall is third. But whilst these three still have to make a pit stop, Will Fielding has to do a stop-and-go penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Goodness me. It is. We're, at this point, we're waiting for a race victory, and I don't think we're going to get one. Absolutely incredible, this race. This has been the most unpredictable race we've had in season 12 so far, and we've only just ticked over half distance. The top three and Liam Watkinson are the four drivers left to make a pit stop in this race. We can't actually see where Liam Watkinson is. He's gone off the road, I think. And Joe Warner went off with him, so the Liam Watkinson, by the way, running in the top 10, but he's now got Jamie Lee following him. Howard Dunn after his pit stop is 12th. I mean, we don't... it is an absolutely wonderful race to watch. Absolutely wonderful. This is one of the best races I've ever commentated on. In any form of commentary I've ever done. Steve Hall now pits. We're going to have to get a little look at his spin, unfortunately. I know he won't want to watch that back on the stream. And Will Fielding comes in to serve his stop and go penalty. So that's that being sorted. So that's going to move. Dan Hatton is going to be up into 3rd place. And he's putting a lap on Jeffrey Van Buren. That just shows you how wild this race has been. Dan Hatton is in 3rd place. Staggering. Absolutely staggering. Let's just go and have a little look at Steve Hall's moment that he had at Degner 2. Don't know if he hit anything. So it was on this lap where he went off. He had a bit of pressure from behind. So here we go. Out of Dunlop. Oh, he's already sliding out the corner. Oh, he's having a big slide out of the corner. And then into Degner. Oh, just puts a wheel on the grass and that's it. Round it goes. He's done very well to do a 360 and keep it out of the barrier. So, and he's just about got the car as well, pointing in a straight line and kept the clutch in. So Steve's done very well actually to hold that. So Will Fielding has come out in 4th place. He is in front of... Well, no, he's not. He's behind Steve Hall. This is what I mean. The timing tower is not good. Because everybody now is almost a lap down from one another. We can't quite fathom where anybody is out on the circuit. And for the number of people who are watching right now, this is... Just stay for the next 26 minutes if you can. Because this race isn't over. Just because Dan Hatton is in 3rd place, he could very easily end up 1st or 15th. We just cannot call where this race is going to go. We've done 15 laps here at Suzuka. Liam Watkinson's coming out of the pits. Steve Hall is 23 seconds clear of the former race leader, which was Will Fielding. Danny Zoutenbayer is 8th. And he's just done a 2:07. And Hartle Toby has gone into the pits. Mikey Keating has also gone into the pits. Danny Felix is in 6th position. He said he was hoping for a top 10. He's going to definitely get a top 10 tonight, if as it stands. He'll be on for his best results in the championship since, I think it was season 10 we've talked about previously, wasn't it? With Dan, or season 9. Absolutely brilliant tonight. Absolutely brilliant racing. There's Van Buren in 9th place. Dennis Penders, since making that pit stop, actually seems a lot more comfortable. So I just wonder with Dennis if he'd have been better suited pitting maybe 15 minutes earlier when he was losing that time. Maybe when he got overtaken by Dan Hatton, that was the moment to have pitted and gone, yeah, I'm not that slow compared to everybody else. Because Dennis isn't slow by any stretch of the imagination, ladies and gentlemen. He's a really good driver. He's 5th in the driver's standings at the minute. He will be moving up to 4th, I believe. Will Fielding is 2 spots in front of him, but Penders does have a 6-point gap on him at the minute. So, oh, Fielding! Whoa! I thought the car was just going to bottom out on the exit curve of turn 2 and spit him into the barrier, which would have just doubled his woes. But Will Fielding, as I was saying before, 6 races he's done this season. He's won 3 of them. He was on the podium for the other 2. Are we going to have a rare day where the number 22 doesn't end up in the top 3? He's got to find over 20 seconds, firstly, to Steve Hall. It's Lois Mangle still circulating on track. Howard Dunn in 10th place. Now that he's got a new set of tyres on, he's found more speed. So those that stuck it out might be licking their wounds a little bit, really. And Mark Chapman, the only driver left, I believe, who our race leader, who hasn't made a pit stop. And I've got to say, Dan Hatton, let's just have a look at Dan Hatton's times. So Mark Chapman has been doing 2-minute 6s, 2-minute 5s, but in the last few laps it's an average of 2-minute 6. Dan Hatton has been doing roughly similar times. If we just have a little look at Hartle Toby, been a touch slower as well than that. Steve Hall, he's in now just done a 2-minute 8. So we're just getting a little bit slower as we go through. And then Will Fielding was in the 2-minute 5s. We don't have an accurate lap time from him just yet. But if he is back in the 2-minute 5s, he will be catching Steve Hall at a rate of 3 seconds per lap, which will spell trouble for Hartle Toby as well, because 3 seconds a lap, that's 6 laps he'll be on the rear spoiler of Steve Hall at this rate. 6 laps will bring us to about 10 minutes to go. It is possible for the BMW. It's not impossible at all. It's really got everything you could ever have wanted in a race. Matt Phillips was quite close to the back of Joe Warner, but that is no longer the case. Joe Warner up to 14th, by the way. That's something that we haven't touched upon. He's had a difficult season, but this is the first time I've seen Joe throughout season 12, actually, for that matter, in front of 5 cars. On merit as well. It has to be a really good drive from Joe. He's had a few spins, of course, because this circuit is not easy to navigate. I did say at the start, it's not an easy circuit to drive around. But he's doing a solid, really solid job, and he's got another car just in front of him. Is that Jamie Lee, who's in the top 10? You know, Jamie Lee, who we talked about at the start of this season when he joined back, I think it was round 6, I believe. He joined the series. He's not had the top 10 yet. I think I definitely remember Jamie racing at Zandvoort. Actually, yeah, Zandvoort was the first race he did. But he's not had a top 10 this series. Oh, I've cursed Joe. Sorry, Joe. Round he goes. At the chicane, sadly. But yeah, Jamie Lee running in the top 10. Absolutely fantastic. He's got a comfortable gap to Jeffrey Van Buren. And Matt Phillips has once again found himself with Mikey Keating, who's going back into the pits tonight. I worry if Mikey has got some issues going on with his tyre pressures, because since he's had a pit stop, the car has not looked the same. And I worry that that's the case for Mike, and he's just trying to figure out what's going on. Great shame for Mike if that is the case. But nevertheless, Mark Chapman's still leading. And I think Mark Chapman has done the right thing, ladies and gentlemen, here, is that he is circulating. He's not made a pit stop, because why should he yet? You know, he could make a pit stop now, as the rain looks to be now getting heavier again. He could make a pit stop, and then his tyre pressures are in the wrong place, and he falls all the way down the order. We've seen that happen with a couple of cars already. So, stick it out for as long as you possibly can. If the weather conditions do get any heavier, where it might warrant a swap from different tyre compound, then try and save that for as late as possible. But Chapman, at the minute, coming into the hairpin. Got Matt Phillips behind him in the race. And how far behind is Dan Hatton as he comes across the line? We don't know. Oh, the timing tower does not want to play ball with us. Hartle Toby, he's just put a lap on Howard Dunn, who is also in the top 10. I'm trying to work out actually if how far in front Mark Chapman is in front of everybody. I'm just trying to work out who he's lapped. So I think he's lapped up to Will Fielding at the minute. Stonking race. Less than 20 to go. 20 minutes on the clock. If you are watching, there's a few more of you who've just joined This race, I said it before, this race absolutely isn't over yet. There have been so many incidents throughout the field. We've covered a lot of them, but a lot more have also happened that we aren't even aware of. Fielding flashing the lights. He's trying to get Lewis Mangle out of the way, which, to be fair, did his best. Probably didn't want to lose too much time, did Lewis, but he's running in 17th position. Liam Watkinson now returns to the pits and then leaves the pits, so that was a late flash from the indicator. Let's just get out there. Let's go on board with Mark Chapman, see what these conditions are like. I would describe that as greasy. Let's just follow him through the... Let's just follow him on a lap for the time being. Let's have a little quiet moment to just follow the reigning champion. You would call those conditions challenging. Let's just watch him as he goes into the hairpin, see what his throttle application is like on the exit. Yeah, he's just using the traction control smartly as Mark. And for Chapman, he's not won a race this season. 4 podiums. This is a... As Mangle gets out of the way there, this is a glorious opportunity for him to get a first win on the board. He's not out of the championship contention as Chappers either, you know, he's only 24 points behind. He'll close the gap to Hatton and Packham tonight, if it stays as it is, with less than 17 minutes remaining on the clock. But he looks very comfortable at the moment. He looks very comfortable. I'm going to cut away from him so that we don't curse him, but you're looking at that, you're looking at a driver who's operating like that and you think he's not having any troubles. Why does he need to pit at this moment in the race? Danny Felix, outstanding drive so far from Danny. Really, really strong effort. But we do look like we're going to have a on-track battle. First of all, between Liam Watkinson and Joe Warner. And it looked like Danny Zoutenbayer and Dennis Penders were very close. Let's ride on board with Joe. He's in 14th. This is for position against his... I'd call these two good mates. They like to take the mick out of each other, but also help one another in the Discord. Sharing tips, but... Liam Watkinson certainly has gelled with that Porsche this season. He's had a bit of a wild race. You can see how very close he is to the back of the Mercedes. He's looking at every single line possible as Liam here. Gets a nice exit actually out of Dunlop, but he's not going to be quite close enough, I don't think, to try and attempt a brave move. Just going to see if we can get to Liam. There we go, on board with the attacker. So we move towards turn 10 and into the hairpin we go at turn 11. And Liam Watkinson and Joe and a couple of others always said to me, Jack, if you saw our battles, now we're going to have the chance to see one. Oh, I thought he was going to try and move around the outside at 12. Joe not feeling the confidence to try and go flat with the Mercedes just yet. Oh, he runs a bit deep at Spoon, a little bit of an oversteer moment, and he goes round, and that is that for Joe. And Liam won't get much of an easier overtake than that, to be honest. So the Porsche moves up to 14th place. Will Fielding 16 seconds behind Steve Hall at the minute. Last lap was a 2:07.9 for Steve, a 2:06.5 from the BMW. So it's a second and a half. It's going to take him, I think, just from a quick calculation, I think it's going to take him about 8 laps at that rate to try and catch up. I think he'll run out of time, Will, at that rate. Zoutenbayer to the inside. I was talking about these two fighting earlier. The battle to be the best Ferrari here on race day at Suzuka. And it is a battle of a straight line. They've both got the same car, the same engine, the same effective setup. It's all about driver ability here. Into 130R. Will Danny be brave? He will, but Penders will stick it there. And they run wide, and I think Zoutenbayer was actually quite fair there and let Penders keep the position. He's just going to try and get this car stopped and lined up for the exit of turn 17. He gets a tight line. Penders has a little wobble. Zoutenbayer tries to find that inside line, but Penders blocks the path through to 7th place. Penders just got across quickly enough. Race leader in the pits then. Mark Chapman into the pits. And is that Dan Hatton moving into the race lead? It is! Dan Hatton has moved into the race lead. I wasn't calculating that would have happened. I thought Chappers would have come out in front of the Mustang. But he will have significantly stronger tyres at the end of this race. Don't forget, Dan pitted about 40 minutes ago, maybe 35 minutes ago at the latest. Oh, Zoutenbayer has a kick of oversteer at the exit of Dunlop Curve. But now, can Chappers fight back to Hatton? 6 seconds between the two with less than 12 minutes to go. There's a yellow flag in front of us. Although that's on the other side of the race circuit. I think that's Matt Phillips who's gone round at turn number... I think that's at turn 12, yes. Must have clipped the curb for that one, but we still ride on board with the Dutchman. Zoutenbayer trying to find a way through. He's looked so much more at home in the Ferrari, has Zoutenbayer, since he swapped back from the Mercedes. He just looks like he's a complete driver again. Oh, is he going to try it? That's brave. He's on the grass. He's going to have to try and get that stopped if he can. He's going to go into the wall, potentially. No, he keeps it out of the barriers. And that, he somehow managed to come out of that only 2 seconds behind Dennis Penders. But that must have been a scary moment. How he's kept the car pointing in a straight line over the grass, I'm not quite sure. But take a breath, ladies and gentlemen. Danny Zoutenbayer has just stopped a huge accident from happening. He understeers off the road at 130R. And look who's behind him. The race leader coming to put a lap. Oh, and Dennis Penders has gone off the road. This is all going to start happening again, everybody, in the last 10 minutes, isn't it? Penders had a 2-second gap. It's now 1.3. Mark Chapman, he's now 5.5 behind Dan Hatton. So he's closed that gap down. And I think Zoutenbayer, is he trying to warm the tyres there? I think he's trying to warm the tyres, and he gets it a little bit wrong into turn 1. He's going to get the blue flags now. And Dan Hatton will be on the lights flashing away, telling him to get out the bloody way if he holds him up, because I wasn't expecting a Dan Hatton fight back for a race victory. I did say he could end up P15 or P1. Didn't rule out that possibility, but what a crazy race. Everything and anything has happened. Now, these two are really emerged in their own fight, and Dan Hatton is less than half a second behind. And someone's going to have to call bluff here and get out of the way, because you probably see that, there you go, there's the red triangle telling the proximity of where he is, and there's Hatton moving out of the way. And I wonder if Penders will get this. Oh, Penders, I think, has done it wrong, and Zoutenbayer goes through. Penders is going to try and lunge back up the inside. A little bit of contact between the two, and Penders slips down to 8th place. If I'm going to be honest, I think Penders got that wrong. Oh, Dan Hatton's gone off the road. Whilst we were talking, what did I say, everybody? Anything can happen in these last 10 minutes, and the gap has just gone from 5.5 seconds to 2 between the race leader and Mark Chapman. I don't know why Hatton's gone off the road. I'm not sure what's happened to the Mustang driver. Anything and anything can happen in GT3 racing, and right now it really does. We're going to have a little look at that, see what happened to Hatton, because I think he was through. I don't think he was blocked by Lois Mangle. I could be wrong, but I don't think he was anywhere in the same postcode as the BMW. I wonder if he's just put a wheel on the curb and it's spat him around. But I was saying that Penders just got it a little bit wrong. If he'd have just Took a wider line at the hairpin. He could have just maintained the advantage from Zoutenbayer, but unfortunately that didn't happen. Let's just let's go to the replay. Let's have a look at that with Dan very quickly, and we'll get back to the race in action, of course. Make sure we got the right car. We're not getting the right car. That's always great when that happens. Never mind. We'll just fly through it. I'm pressing the wrong one. Oh, I said we'll get back to it quickly, and then he ends up pressing the wrong button. Nice. So Danny Felix is there. We can go to Chapman. Where's Hatton? There we go, the number 55. So that was on this lap. So he's still not... He's starting to get held up, I think, by this point, is Hatton. And you're thinking, come on, get out of the way, get out of the way, get out of the way. Zoutenbayer then moves, and then Penders lets him through there, and that costs him all the momentum. And then we're coming off the corner. So we go into the right-hander at turn 12, and oh, he did get impeded. He didn't know which way to go with the back marker, and he just accelerated a little bit too much around turn 12, and the understeer took him away. So that's what happened to Hatton. So there wasn't any contact between himself and Lewis Mangle, but just a bit of confusion, really. Brings the gap down to 2 seconds between Chapman and Dan Hatton. As I said before, Chappers hasn't won a race this season. You'd argue he's overdue one. Hartle Toby is in 3rd place. Every single person in Germany right now crossing their fingers for a first podium for the R8 in quite a long time, actually, within ACC Race Nation. Steve Hall is 4th, but he's getting hauled in by Will Fielding. That's 5 seconds, the gap between the two. Can the Ferrari driver hold on to the end? We've sadly lost Mikey Keaton. That's a great shame. Mikey out of the race. He's retired. He must have had some form of issue. I don't know what's gone on. I'll have to speak to him later on. Danny Felix is in 6th place, who you could argue is the driver of the day at the minute for the way he's performed. Danny's out by a 7th. Dennis Penders is in 8th, and then you've got the whole set of cars who are outside of this. So Howard Dunn's in 9th, Jeffrey Van Buren 10th, Jamie Lee 11th, Ross Harris is in 12th, Liam Watkinson in 13th place, Joe Warner trying to get out of the way of Dan Hatton there for 14th. Let's just have a look how will he get out of the way? Oh, he's got it. Oh, that might be... Oh, I thought that was going to be a accident between the two. Joe didn't know which way to stick, and then Chapman tried to predict which way he was going to go, and it just ended up with a bit of confusion. But Joe is 14th. Matt Phillips is 15th, Mangle 16th, and Zolt Barabas, credit to him, to the Hungarian, he's got back into the race. I'm not quite sure what happened, but it looked like he disconnected twice. He is in 17th. But the closest fight now on circuit is, incredibly, after all of this, after 55 minutes of racing action, is between Mark Chapman and Dan Hatton for the race victory. This is going to be a thrilling end to what has been a wildly dramatic race here at Suzuka, as the Aston Martin picks his way up through the gears. Dan Hatton's been in this place before. He knows how to win races now. He knows how to defend for race victories as well. He's had that a couple of times when he's been under pressure from Stuart Packham, when he's been under pressure from Jeffrey Van Buren as well. He knows how to win races, does Hatton, but can he fend off the advances of Mark Chapman? We know how strong Chappers is towards the end of a race. He just gets into a flow state that a number of other drivers just can't achieve. And he's got the bit between his teeth, but he pushes a little bit too wide into turn 2. These drivers now don't have any cars in front of them for 5 or 6 corners. The next car up the road is Danny Felix. If they do get up to him, incredibly, there'll only be 5 cars on the lead lap. On the dash camera now of the AMR, both the Mustang and the V8 Vantage trying to find different lines. But Chapman is looking really strong. Into the right-hander we go. The Mustang runs a little bit wider. And we don't have to worry about speed and power in a straight line here because the Aston can box with anybody. Ooh, a little bit of a twitch going into turn 10 for Hatton. That's nice and tight, that from Chapman. Into the hairpin, but the car just spinning up the rear tyres. You heard it as he tried to get on the power. Just lost traction, just broke a little bit. As we move into the final 3 minutes of this barnstorming race. Into the left-hander at Spoon. Nice tight line that from Chapman, but the car understeers and washes out wide. But Hatton's acceleration zone wasn't as strong as I thought it was going to be. I did think it would be a little bit stronger. But that Mustang is not pulling away. Into the left-hander at 130R. Again, Hatton using all of the road. But he's not having to defend too strongly yet. Good chicane. Really nice drive that from the Aston Martin. Can he get on the power early enough? He can. But in the second phase of acceleration, that Mustang just has enough to keep it in front. And Chappers is just moving in the mirrors now. He's trying to throw Dan Hatton off the road. And Dan Hatton's made a mistake. And Chapman's on the inside, but he's just not close enough. That little wobble, that little throw, that little shape that Chapman did just threw Hatton off his guard, and he's gone wide at turn 3. Oh, and he's on the curb. He's having a little slide through there. He is hanging on by a thread at the moment. But this is the action that we're watching. And can Chapman find a way through on the penultimate lap of the race? Hatton would have been desperately hoping that this was the final lap, but it isn't. And he's got to sustain this pressure now for another, I'd estimate, about 5.5 miles. Nice lines from the pair of them. Into the turn 10 and turn right, turn 11 complex, and Hatton having to defend that line. Chapman looking strong through those corners. If you're watching in the comments, call it as to who you think is going to win this race. But we are moving into the last knock-ins of the race now. Chapman just seems to be able to take a tighter line, but I don't know if that's helping him on the exit. Ooh, little slide again from Hatton. Those tyres are going to be starting to scream in agony now. Don't forget, Hatton pitted so early in this race, at least at the maybe at the 50-minute mark. But that's a nice line from Chapman. Chapman's got so much more fresher tyres at this point. He can lean on them a bit more. He could go for a big lunge at the end. And there we go. That might be the chance. Over the curbs awkwardly for the Mustang. And you could not get any closer to the rear spoiler than that unless you were nudging the Mustang off the road. On to the final lap. We are about to go. Here at Suzuka, what has been an absolutely barnstorming race is going to culminate in the next 3.6 miles. It doesn't. It ends there because the timer ticked over and Dan Hatton has held on in the end. Unbelievable. We didn't get the notification to say he was on the last lap. That's why we assumed otherwise. So Dan Hatton hangs on by the skin of his teeth from Mark Chapman. Hartle Toby is going to get his first podium of season 12, and it's so well deserved. Well done to the German in the R8. Steve Hall is just about going to hold on to fourth. It's a day of holding on for everybody. The Ferrari 296 takes fourth place. Will Fielding ends up fifth after that stop-go penalty. And driver of the day, for me personally, Danny Felix is going to finish sixth, but I just want to come back to that moment. Dan Hatton, that was a Hail Mary moment at the final corner. He had to try and do as best as he could to hold on, but he's done just that. And he takes another victory. Unbelievable performance in the end for the Mustang man. He's going to move into the lead of the Drivers' Championship. Lewis Mangle is going to get his first finish in ACC Race Nation. Yes, he's 5 laps down, but I don't think that matters realistically. He's going to score some points for the BMW team. Matt Phillips will be the same for him as well. It was a good race for Matt. He had a few problems, but he had a number of good fights, specifically with Mikey Keaton. He gets 15th on race day. Jeffrey Van Buren's going to have a quiet run to 10th place. I think his race got shaped out very early on, and there wasn't really much he could have done about that after that fact because the gaps were so big. So Van Buren ends up crossing the line in 10th place. And my driver of the day, Danny Felix, for a best result since season 10 at least. What a drive for him. Didn't put a foot wrong. And Liam Watkinson, in the end, crosses the line. But it is Dan Hatton by a 10th and a bit of a second. Unbelievably, on the last lap that we didn't know to be the last lap. Hangs on from Mark Chapman, who takes second place for the third time this season. Always the bridesmaid so far, chappers, but he is the reigning champion. Don't rule him out for the next 4 races. Hartle Toby gets his first podium since season number 11. Steve Hall is in 4th place. Steve having a bit of a renaissance now that he's got his wheels and pedals all sorted out. Let's hope that can continue on for the rest of the championship. Will Fielding with a mistake, a rare mistake at that for the number 22. He ends up in 5th place with Danny Felix, the last driver on the lead lap, in 6th position, and my driver of the day for sure. Danny Zoutenbayer beat Dennis Penders in the end for 7th place, with Howard Dunn in 9th position. Jeffrey Van Buren was the last of the drivers, 1 lap down in 10th place. Jamie Lee finished in 11th position, with Ross Harris and Liam Watkinson rounding out the drivers who finished 2 laps down in 13th place. Then it was Joe Warner and Matt Phillips in 14th and 15th, with Lois Mangle and Zolt Barabas in 17th. Mikey Keaton sadly retired from the race a number of laps down with some issues, and Stuart Packham, the other retirement from the race. Mark Laszlo didn't get started, so technically would be classified as a DNS rather than a did not finish. That, though, has been absolutely the most fantastic, chaotic race I think I've ever commentated on in this championship. And I've been commentating since the last round of Season 8. And I don't think we've ever encountered such a dramatic race as that. For all the drivers who were watching this, I bet you they wish they could have been a part of it to watch back. But congratulations for another victory to Dan Hatton. That's his 6th of the season. We're 11 races in now. Absolutely fantastic. Stuart Packham has asked for me to apologise to the guy who he had an incident with, which is Lois Mangle. I don't think Lois will mind too much, but Stuart realising he could have made a few adjustments and probably could have avoided the incident. But hey, it happens. It happens to the best of us at the end of the day. Next week, you thought we had a wild race tonight. We're off to Bathurst for round number 12 of the championship. That is a race that always throws up a surprise result. Let's not forget, last time we raced at Bathurst, I think that was in season 11, we had an absolutely wild race in the end. We ended up having a very bizarre finish to that as well. I think it was Jordan Harding surprising everybody, getting his only podium of the season during that one. So anything can happen at Bathurst. I'm really excited to see how that goes down. But that is the end of race 11 from season 12, the most dramatic, wild and chaotic and frenetic race you have ever seen in the series. If you want to see more action, I will be commentating, of course, on the final rounds of the championship for this season, so right the way through to round number 15, the season finale at the Nordschleife 2-hour race on the 3rd of June. Not that long to go. Who's going to win the championship? Mark Chapman, Stuart Packham, or the Mustang driver who's just won the race tonight of Dan Hatton? It's going to be between those three by the seams of it. I think it's a little bit late now for anyone else to join in, but there's going to be lots of narratives, lots of plots to come through, I'm sure. But in any case, I'm Jack Millington. Thank you very much for watching my commentary and enjoying all of the spectacle tonight. Wherever you might be in the big wide world, have a good one, and we'll see you next week at Bathurst.